I'm Murdo Crosbie, Hatchery Coordinator for the River Cree Hatchery Habitat Trust. To be honest with you, I was sitting there, I was quite depressed by all the problems that we hear about. I think probably we might have a wee bit of a lifting spirit with some of the results that we get. Anyway, this is our story. Beginning the project, the idea came about in 2009 with a bunch of local anglers on the rivers. Fish weren't there in the numbers that they were. We actually thought it's about time we actually done something. So a group of us, which was included the Newton Stewart Angler Association, decided the way to go forward was to build a hatchery. We talked about it in 2009. We got permission to go ahead. We had permission from the River Board, etc. to get going ahead. The actual project started in March 2010. As you can see, we completed it in October 2010. When we built that hatchery, you can see the build cost there is at 37,140. Realistically, if we had paid for everything in that hatchery at the time, we would have paid 80-odd thousand. Most of that come from local businesses, fundraising, support from the Angling Club. I mean, the Angling Club paid the biggest part of that actually. At the time, the local River Board didn't give us any money at all for it at that point. So 2010 was basically, we done a kind of pilot project. Rather than go straight in there and do the full amount that we were thinking of, we went in and we done 60,000. And I don't know if you can remember 2010, it was the hardest winter we had for years. Everything, when you went in the morning, there was an inch of ice on the floor, that these wee fish, the eggs and everything survived through that. So we knew then, you know, in the first year, what we had set up at that point was going to work. That year, the following year, we released these 60,000 fry. They were all into a burn called the pink kiln burn, which again is an easy burn to monitor. It's not a huge river system. We'll better not forget the volunteers. The volunteers, I mean, we were away to likes of game fairs, etc. We had stands up, we had raffles, we had played pigeon shoots, sport raffles. And that's how all the money come about. That is the hatchery. The only thing I will say now, we thought that was quite large. I think it's 68 feet by 20, I think. Now, if I was doing that, I'd want it twice the size. Because whatever you do, you outgrow it. Because what you forget about is the wee fish that you're rearing. You know, you start off with 20,000 in a tank. Within 3 or 4 weeks, that tank's bulging. So you've got to start splitting these up all the time. That's just a view of inside the hatchery. My biggest problem is, on the right hand picture, you'll see the troughs that we actually have the eggs in. Now, you'll see later on in the pictures, I have to take them out to then move tanks back in. That's where I'm struggling for space now. That's us again taking the troughs away and we're setting up our incubator system, which we'll explain once we come to the incubator. The incubator made a huge difference. And again, the incubator idea come from, we went to visit another hatchery and the idea was born there. We just didn't have the same amount of money as they had, so they were made with drums rather than big fancy marine ply incubators. Reasons for stocking? One of our biggest problems is acidification. I mean, I don't know if any of you know Galloway Forest is huge in citrus spruce. We actually are running some Sunday water monitoring, which you'll see shortly, and some of the figures are horrific. And that is one of the reasons why we are mitigating against acidification. Although, to be honest with you, you can see itself, you could mitigate against so many other reasons for stocking. Degraded habitat, again a lot of that's caused by land use. Again, mainly ours is forestry, which is FLS land. Increased spates events. I said to somebody earlier on today, you'll all have seen it this year. I mean, we're continually having big waters. And I don't think it's the big waters that actually cause the problem. It's the speed they come down at now. I mean, they don't come down nice and gently like they used to do. It's a flush. It's just ripping things out. And I'm quite sure now we're getting a lot of red washout. And of course, when we've got all these big waters, another problem we're having is siltation. You know, all the wash off. I mean, again, forestry practices, you know, they'll not stop going in and cutting trees down just because it's wet. So they're breaking the ground up, that all goes into ditches, straight into your water system. In fact, this is the first year since we set up the hatchery. I've got a centre tank, which is meant to be a silk trap. 2 or 3 folk have seen it. Normally, I shut the hatchery down in October. I clean it out, and that does me to the following October. I cleaned it out this October, and I had to clean it out in January. We had that much silt in it this year. That just shows you what has come down in these spate events this year. And obviously the last one, we've all hit on it, predation. Our biggest problem is FEBs, fish-eating birds. We don't seem to have a huge problem with seals. That might increase because obviously the netsmen are no longer there, which had the right to dispatch the seal. The aims, the reason why we are stocking into areas of catchment which currently support no or very low populations of wild fish. That's all done through electrofishing surveys. Habitat, again, we're continually doing habitat work. Most of that is on, again, FLS land, which is cutting the regen Sitka spruce. The regen and the self-seeded Sitka spruce are actually filling up the spaces that were left as buffer zones. I mean, we were cutting trees that are 35-year-old, and basically what they do is they just shade out the whole burn. You know, there's nothing. It affects the invertebrates a whole lot. So we are cutting them away, trying to give ourselves a buffer zone of about 30 metres. That's what we're allowed to do, unless if it's commercial crop and it was 1 metre away, we couldn't touch it. But if it's not commercial, but self-seeded, we can clear that back to 30 metres. Once we clear that back, we are then planting broadleaf trees in groups. We've been doing that now for about 8-9 years. The only difference what we're doing with that is we are actually stocking these places that we're doing that on as well. So apart from just having good habitat, we've actually got fish in these areas as well. Education, we work a lot with schools. Just again, you only need to look in this room. There's not many youngsters amongst us. And if we don't educate these young ones to go on behind us, what we're going to do today is going to be pointless, because there's nobody going to go on behind us to do it. As hit on earlier on, identifying stocking sites using electrofishing. We also, once we've stocked fish, we go back and we electrofish these same sites. Just to see how well they've survived, looking at the size of them and just densities. We've got the local fisheries trust, they have produced a stocking document for us since we started. That's produced on a yearly basis. We've been science-led, probably, I think some of us in here will agree, there's an awful lot of negativity in it, but over the years we have actually managed to get some positive stuff put back into it. Walking the river banks, we're doing it all the time, walking the river banks again, looking for the same things that David's talking about, barriers. We are not so bad with weirs, etc., water extraction or anything like that. Our biggest problem, again, is probably going back to trees. You know, you're looking for basically dams. You know, if it's left alone, it just builds up and some of them just get impassable. Organised bird counts to assess the fish-eating bird number. We apply for a licence. The licence every year we normally get to a licence for 7 gooseanders and 3 corners. It's not an awful lot, but it lets us get out there, and in that process we're also doing a lot of scaring as well. Which we found over the years, even being a presence on the river at that time of year, moving them on. You know, and if there's groups of them, if there's a group of them and you've still got birds on your licence, we'll try and take one out of the group. And just try and keep them on the move. But again, that's going to be something that's been continual for years. Again, we're engaged with local schools, organising school visits. We let them see the whole process of what the hatchery is, stripping fish. They actually come out and help us put a few fry in. Again, one of the good thing about doing that is what David again hit on earlier on, that ticks boxes for us to actually get some funding, which is obviously important for us as well. Licensing, the hatchery itself, it was licensed at the very start through Marine Scotland. We obviously need a licence for water extraction, that's through SEPA. The broodstock capture licence, we have to apply for that every year, again that's Marine Scotland. And the broodstock, what we tend to get is it 2% of the rod catch. So for every 100 fish that are caught by rod, we'll get 20 fish for broodstock. Most years we're getting a licence to take 60 to 70 brood fish. Electrofishing, we're electrofishing for broodstock. We need the licence for that, and we also need the licence to electrofish to do the surveys on the fry surveys. We've just hit on the licensing for fish eating birds, that's applied for every year. We tend to get it in January every year, and it runs through the end of May, Jamie, I think it's. We can shoot female gooseanders up to the end of April. In May we're allowed to shoot males. But they say we've only got 7. And obviously we need various landowners' permissions to go on to catch broodstock, etc. And one of the big landowners again is FLS, which we hit on earlier on there about the acidity. We're running a song in this now. And that is really interesting, because if you look at the minimum pH we were hitting was 3.7. I mean that's almost acid. And surprisingly enough, I mean if you look earlier in the year we were hitting down to 4s, and it was quite regular at 4. But the fish in the burn this year survived really well. I think it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago we lost a whole lot. Every fish in that burn, when we went to electrofish the fry, there wasn't one fish survived. You can also see maximum temperature there in the summer was 24.4. I mean that's probably one of the reasons why we're planting trees as well. You know, to get this shading and cover on it. So we're going to lift that now, and we're going to go and look now and see if there's anything that we can do to try and make some changes. And I mean that might just be increasing buffer zones, changing practices. You can see the events. You can see the events of the pH. I mean, if you imagine a flood, as soon as you get a flood, down it goes. You get a wee dry spell. You can see there in in May. You get a period where it's all steady. That's a dry spell. Then all of a sudden you get rain, down it goes. And in the winter there, they say it was under 4 for quite some time. Eggs will not hatch in that. I mean, eggs will just not hatch in that there at all. The fry cannot get out of the egg. That's one of the reasons why we go for fry and not, if we put eggs into these conditions, it'd be a waste of eggs. It's a waste of our time. That's what we're talking about, the Sitka regen. The photo on the left is before, the photo on the right is after. The pictures aren't that great, it's just off a phone. It gives you the idea of what's happening. You're just creating a far better habitat. Obviously your broadleaf planting is, 10, 15 years before it's going to be really beneficial. Native trees, broadleaves. Again, if you look at a Sitka spruce, a Sitka spruce attracts about 20 different kinds of insects. You get your aspen, alder, birch, they're attracting somewhere between 200 and 300 different species. So that apart from the shading and the nutrients that you can add into the water, you're attracting a bigger lot of insects. And fish do surface feed on insects, especially fry. Broodstock catcher, maybe not a flat up photograph, look a bit like a smurf. That's us electrofishing the peg kiln burn next to the hatchery. It's a low conductivity burn and it makes it very hard to hold fish. You could turn the electrofishing gear up, but the problem is you'll break backs of the cockfish. So there's no point. We just have to go for the hard work. It's just a wee video, it's 2 minutes long. Oh, sorry, it's not. Go back. What I do there, David, this is, you have to click forward. Click right and go on to the next. I should normally just click on it with a mouse. It's electrofishing for us. It should just click on it. It should start.
Go back, just go back more. It's not like the video format. Sorry about that.
That's right. You can put a dongle in if you want.
You don't have the correct video codec to play the type of video.
No, it wasn't. Anyway, it was a video. That's original. Fish eating birds. That was a disaster shot early April, 2 or 3 years ago, 10 o'clock in the morning. It had 15 par and 1 smolt inside it. Get your calculators out and do the maths. It's horrifying. If that bird hadn't been shot, that would probably have reared anywhere up to 12 youngsters. And unlike ducks, gazanders rear them all. They're great mothers. The top fish there, believe it or not, are actually finclet, which wasn't very good. Another gazander shot under licence. It just gives you an idea of the size of fish that they can take as well. That was a brown trout. I think that's about 8 inches, 8, 9 inches. School visits, again, we're showing them the life cycle of salmon, trying to get them interested. The local club give all primary schools within the DG8 area free permits, just to try and encourage these youngsters into fishing, which then hopefully one day they'll be doing what we're doing. Numbers, this is a bit probably more interesting. So broodstock, we're catching normally 60 to 70. Under licence, as I said, approximately 20% rod catch. We're laying down about 200,000 eggs a year. Fertility to hatching is normally in the region averaging about 98%. You get occasional fish that will go a bit lower, but we also get fish that are like 99.6%. 180,000 of what we are doing in a full year will be put out is probably a month old of feeding. Basically that is simply because of room. I mean, we're working with 14 tanks in the hatchery, 14 incubators. As I said earlier on, I mean, once you've got 20,000 fish start feeding, it's not long till they outgrow. You can't keep them any longer either, because if you keep these in these conditions where they're crammed, they will start eating each other. They will start taking their dorsal fins off, taking the adipose fin, not the adipose fin, the pectoral fins. 20,000 of what we do, we keep to a size where we can fin clip them. we start stocking about anywhere from about July to October. Again, because of the facilities, we intend to try and keep them checked a wee bit. I don't want them growing too fast. I mean, I hear folks saying they want to grow them quick. I don't want them growing too fast and finishing up as S1s. I want to try and keep them as S2s so that they're staying in the river environment for at least a year. So what I tend to do is I will grade every tank and we'll take out the bigger ones, fin clip them, get them stocked out. That's giving the tank, the fish that are left, smaller fish, a chance to come on. So continually doing that. We possibly can through the tanks. It could be 4 or 5 times within the season. Just turning them out, turning them out. As I say, if you don't, they will eventually start eating each other. Annual running costs for us, roughly about £35,000. Obviously that's including insurances, my wages. I keep saying to folk, as a career move, actually is maybe not the way to go forward.
Say wages then?
I did say wages, well, if you want to call it that. It's a good job, I've got a love for salmon. Right down the eggs, obviously you'll all have seen this, stripping the fish. The fancy technology David was using earlier on, well, I'll explain what I do. If, just for instance, I've got 7 fish from the pine kiln ready, I will strip the 7 of them into 7 bowls. What I will then do is I'll get another 7 bowls, and I'll take eggs from each of the first 7 bowls and mix them. So then I finish up with 7 bowls with eggs from 7 fish. You follow that? Yeah. So then what I'll do is I'll add a separate cockfish to each bowl, and then I'll use a spare, just in case. So basically, out of them 7 pairs, you're getting a minimum of 49 pairs. And if you're using the 8th fish and he's managing to fertilise a few as well, you've got it up to 50 odd. I mean, we had a meeting with Marine Scotland 3-4 years ago, trying to explain this to them. I mean, we talk about genetics. How do you know we are not doing a better job by using 7? You're talking about 49 tails out of 7 fish. That doesn't always happen, because if I've only got 2 fish ready, I might split that into 3 or 4. So the more fish I've got ready, the bigger diversity you're going to get. But then, in my opinion, the numbers are getting so low now anyway. Personally, I think that natural selection is starting to go out the window. Because I mean, if your numbers are getting that so low, they're just going to make the what's there. I mean, if a cockfish is not going to swim up the river and go, that's my sister. It's going to be in there, that's it. So I think we're at a stage now, we still need to try and do the best we can, but yeah. Again, that's laying the eggs down in the trays. We use just a solid trough system. Most of you will know at that stage the eggs are quite robust for a day or 2. Then once they're in the trays, they become quite fragile. The incubator system, see, this was an idea that come from a hatchery down south. As I said earlier on, we couldn't afford the marine ply, etc. So I had drums that I was going to be using for pheasant feeders, and I thought, right, we can make incubators out of this. So.
Murdo, will it put you off to turn around and look at that screen? Because he's just about on the live stream, that's all. So
sorry? Alright.
It's my fault, I'm a very inexperienced director.
Oh.
No
problem. It looks much the same.
Exactly the same, yeah.
So the incubator system, basically all I'm trying to do is replicate what's happening in the river to the best I can. Alvins, if they're swimming about, if they use up their yolk sac too quick, you'll get a thing called nip yolk sac, which will basically kill all the alvins. Doing it in this system, I don't get any nip yolk sac whatsoever, and you tend to produce a better quality fish. They're using their yolk sac for growth rather than energy. If they're swimming about a tank using it for energy, they're smaller, as I say, you lose them through the yolk sac anyway. So the last picture you show, you've your pipe coming in the bottom, which is your water supply. You've got a layer of gravel. These are pal rings that are on top of the gravel. I don't use mesh anymore, I use plastic mesh now. Just a bit worried about the galvanisation on them. 2 bricks on top just to hold the thing in place, add your fish, and they basically just sit in amongst the pal rings, and they don't move, and they'll sit in there for anything up to 5 or 6 weeks. The interesting thing with the incubator is I've got a clear pipe going into the incubator from the top to let the light in. I put a lid on them, just shut them off. But once they are used up their yolk sac, they're then behaving like swim-up fry. So they are then looking for the light, they're coming up, coming through the pipe and dropping into the tank ready for feeding. Not a great picture, but that's fed fry that are just about to be stocked. Autumn fry, taking the adipose fin off them. It's a laborious job. We anaesthetise them. Yeah, we are doing about 20,000. Electrofishing surveys, these are all, that survey there was last year, and that was all stock sites. The top 3 is where we put the autumn fry. Although you see salmon fry in the top one is 11, they were actually fin clip fry that had been released 2 weeks before. Because of water conditions, I was quite late in getting some of them out. I thought before I could get the electrofishing done in the top sites, that I put them downstream by about 400 metres, thinking that these would not migrate upstream. Anyway, when I went to electrofish, these fry had migrated upstream. That's minimum densities per 100 square metres. If you look at actual, I can't remember what the thing is, but it's the good, very good, etc. Most of the sites are in the top of the range. The par tend to thin out a bit. They tend to migrate more. And the one with the cloggery bubble, that was up in there. That's where we had a complete failure from the year before. So obviously there was no salmon par from the year before either. That was the bottom that we showed you that was at 3.7 pH. That was the count in salmon fry this year, 50. And the growth rates were really good on them, which was quite surprising. They're just some of the fin clip salmon fry that we catch and while electrofishing. They'll have been in the burn for a year. I think what we are doing there, we are probably producing our thoughts somewhere about 90% of what we're doing is S2s. Possibly 10% will be going as S1s. Some of them within the hatchery, when you're feeding them, you just can't stop them from growing. They just shoot away. I mean, you can finish up with fish that size in your tank, and you still get fish that size. I'm quite sure they are going to go as S1s. This will be a bit maybe probably an eye opener for a lot of people, but that's the rod catches for the last few years. I mean, we are in the red there. I mean, you can see, I mean, a hatchery's not going to all of a sudden give you, you're not all of a sudden going to have great catches. We've kind of plateaued out. Some years we're getting rises in it. You see some of the big rivers there, I mean, since 2000, early 2000, I mean, they just dropped off a cliff. I think there's a couple of boys in here from the Nith, I think, what can make out. I mean, I think 2 years ago, I think the Nith was down to about 180 fish from a rod catch, in the early 2000s, nearly 3,500. So it shows you how critical it is that, we're all here today. We've got a river, the Luce, and you see in 220, it really kind of bucked the trend. The feed as well that year as well, we went up, in fact they all did then. The Luce is quite a small river, We actually put it down to better catches, basically because it's better anglers. This is the 5-year average. Again, you look at that graph, I mean, it's horrifying what you're watching. What's that, the 5-year average? I mean, we were down 18%, Bladder down 33%. The loose is the one we're talking about, bucking the trend. Nith down 83, the Annan 72, Stencher 75, Boone 63. It looks a bit better than the 3-year average. And the 3-year average, it's showing us up 30%, but if you look at the loose, it's up 109%. It did run a hatchery, but it folded. When did it fold, Jamie?
20 plus years ago.
Well, it's as far back as that. There is only one trend though. I mean, the trend is down, and that's all it was. I mean, even ourselves. I mean, we're running a hatchery. In my opinion, what we're doing is we're holding it kind of stable. I say we're certainly not going to run the hatchery and all of a sudden see huge catches. The return of adipose fin clips. David hit it on earlier on. We have a massive problem with, I think, under-reporting of fin clips. The only ones that get reported is normally people that are involved with working with the hatchery, or people that have got a right strong interest in it. We do pick the odd ones up where you'll get an angler who's caught a fish and he'll send you a photograph. They haven't picked it up. We see, all right, it's adipose fin clip. Your rod catches is not really an indicator, I don't think. I don't know what you'd multiply it back just by. Well, a prime example, I think it was 2010, I caught my first fin clip fish in the spring. I could see it straight away, just where I landed it. I beached it onto shallow water, it was lying on the side. I could see it before it even went down to it. The second one I got was a grills. It was July, August time. Water was a bit bigger. I was more concerned with the fish's health, and I missed it. I did manage to get a photograph holding the fish, got a photograph, went home, no adipose fin clip. It was no adipose fin. So I think if I can miss them, you know. Aye. Yeah. The problem is, I mean, nowadays we're more concerned with making sure that fish is going back healthy. Broodstock catcher is a bit more different. It's a bit different because, again, that's in the Penkill burn. I mean, you can see 2022 was, we couldn't get into the burn properly because, again, there was too much water. So we just couldn't electrofish it. That's hence the reason, you know, 18 fish catcher in total. The interesting thing there though, I mean, you're looking at, the last year was 21.2%, 14 from 66 catcher. In that burn, we're only stocking a fifth of what we stock in that burn with fin clips. So if you start doing the maths, I mean, what is the true figure of hatchery return fish? You know, on 23. I mean, somebody did push me on the Facebook page, trying to get me to say it could be 100%. I don't believe that, but it's going to be an awful lot higher than 21.2. But to me, the worrying thing about that is, in a sense, out of them 66 that we capture, we only take about anything 10, 11 hens, maybe 6 or 7 cockfish. So we're leaving big numbers in the burn still to reproduce on their own. In my opinion, these hatchery fish are getting a better return rate than wild fish.
Sorry, Murdo, can I just have a quick, a terrible one, sorry.
Yep.
Those fish that you're using for broodstock, do you take out the thin fit ones?
No,
or
put them back.
you put those back
Put
and you
them
take care.
I don't know, if you listen to what I've just said though, there's only a fifth of what we put in as fin clips. There's 4/5. You know, there's another 50,000 that aren't clipped. So when we're taking them for broodstock, we haven't got a clue what they are. You know, we could still be taking hatchery fish back to the hatchery, we don't know. As I say, in my opinion, I think that hatchery fish, for some reason, are doing better in that burn than well fish. Which I think probably, don't ask me why. I say, if you just, I mean, obviously that's 66 capture, that's not all the fish out of the burn either.
Can I ask? The condition of the broodstock hatchery returns, were they in better condition than the wild broodstock?
Condition factor one.
Yeah, condition
I would have said there was no difference. I think, whether it's hatchery or not, I think we slightly get a better size spring fish now, Jamie. Would you agree with that?
Really difficult to tell.
Yeah, I know.
don't know.
I mean, for a while there we were getting spring fish that were more kind of 9, 10, 11.
But if they're not clipped, you don't know anyway.
No,
So
no. I mean, lucky enough, before we left yesterday, Jamie was meant to pick me up at 1 o'clock. He phoned me at 1 minute to 1 and said, I'll be late, can you come and photograph this fish for me? It's a good reason to be late, but we were hoping it might have been a fin clip because that would have been nicer than the cake today. But yeah, we don't know. I mean, we are trying to look to go down the road of trying to do some genetic sampling. Because if we could get the funding to do that, I mean, the answer would be definitive, wouldn't it? You could eventually turn around and say, right, they work or they don't work. And I think that's what we need. But in my opinion, when you see that there, I mean, we're only talking about 10,000 fin clips. Don't get that confused with the return rate though. That's not the return rate. That's percentage of fish captured. That was the very first fin clip fish that we caught. And again, we didn't realise it was fin clip until we went to put it in the hatchery. And then we realised what it was and it went back into the mum. The hatchery is here to where that man's standing, that's the gap between the hatchery. That actual fish was caught about 40 yards from the hatchery. Not that that's anything to do with where it come from, it's just that was coincidence. There's the man up there, you'll see lots of photos of him. That was, I think Jamie had 3 springers that year, all fin clipped. That was the 2 fin clips that I caught. You can't see it well in spring fish. I mean, you look, I mean that spring fish is like a tuna. You know, I mean that's not inferior to anything else. That's the one that I missed. You can clearly see. You can see, but there's not an added spin. It's normally just a wee bump that is fully skinned over. That was electrofishing for broodstock. We took 5 fish out of that pool, 4 of them were fin clipped. Unfortunately, there only was 4 of us, so we could only photograph 3.
No looking one there.
Yeah, they were all kills. The fin clips this year, we haven't had many kelps in the river this year, but 2 of the kelps that we have caught have also been fin clipped. One of them estimated that when it came in last year it might have been about 10 fish, about £15 possibly. So, I mean, the fin clips are also adding to the capacity of the river. The future for us, identify further stocking sites. Again, that'll be through electrofishing. I mean, there's still areas where we don't have any wild spawning. It'd be nice to increase the percentage of autumn fry that we're releasing. Again, I'll probably have to put another bay on the side of the hatchery. And I have to speak to the Secretary of the Trust and just figure out, look for some funding. Talking about water quality, just through the sonding that we're doing, we need to address that now. We have been in talks with our Scottish, SEPA. We're getting talks with them and see. We'll not be able to do much because I mean most of the land is commercial forestry. I mean all we can hope for is maybe increased buffer zones. It'd also be nice, I mean the forestry have to plant a certain percentage of broadleaves. They've also got to have a certain percentage of open space. But it'd be nice if they used that along the water courses instead of along the roadsides. Unfortunately they want it on the roadsides because it's easier to shoot deer. It's just going to help us. continue to maintain the habitats. I mean, I don't know if any of you follow our Facebook page, but we're out there. This year we've been doing more maintenance work on the work we've been doing over the last 8 or 9 years by replacing dead trees and removing the tubes off the trees that have got tall enough and strong enough that can be taken off. And again, expand our education programme. There was another bit, there you go. I do catch the odd fish. Future to me again is the youngsters, educating them. To me, what I want to do is make sure that we've got salmon in our river for my grandkids to go and fish, whether they want to fish or not. And if we don't do something now, that's not going to be the case. There was a video then, but I don't think it's going to work either, if it's the same format.
Sorry, Brandon.
That's all right.
You're supposed to play every format there is.
No, it worked to me. It was just, I had to just click it, then start playing. So that's our story. I hope you found it as interesting as what I feel it is.